You're with these boys day in and day out. You're in the trenches. You're having fun together. You're hanging out together. You create this bond. To win a World Series, you need that special bond. I don't care if you're all professionals. You need a bond. You can't have a bunch of individuals on the team. You have to be pulling on the same rope. And I truly believe that even if, guys are making millions and millions of dollars, you still have to be pulling on the same rope. Like, it doesn't matter. You still need that special bond. And I think that helped me be the leader I was when I got to professional baseball. All
right, we are joined today by my brother, former client, but still friend, Kurt Suzuki. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thanks for having me, buddy. You're with these boys day in and day out. You're in the trenches. You're partying together. You're having fun together. You're hanging out together. You create this bond, right? All my teammates were in my wedding. Like, they're still my really good friends to this day. And I feel like, and I could be wrong, but this is my perception, is to win in the World Series, to win a World Series, you need that special bond. I don't care if you're all professionals. You need a bond. You can't have a bunch of individuals on the team. You have to be pulling on the same rope. And I truly believe that even if, guys are making millions and millions of dollars, you still have to be pulling on the same rope. Like, it doesn't matter. You still need that special bond. And I think that helped me be the leader I was when I got to professional baseball, was that moment in college.
And here's what I will say about, you make the comment, I don't know if it's different today. I think my hope for kids is you see these kids today and they go to college and there are so many opportunities for a player to say, it's just not that way anymore, right? There are new kids every season, as you brought up the transfer portal. Yeah, guys are transferring in and transferring out, and there's new guys. But where I would push back is, don't be the player that waits for someone else to do it. You be the guy that takes it upon himself to try to reinstill this team atmosphere. Because we all know coaches, like, they want somebody to step up and take that. Right? There's no
100%.
As much as it's required or necessary, I shouldn't say required, but necessary for that person to be, whether it's the catcher, the leader, whether it's the junior on the team or whatever. But somebody needs to take the reins. And if you can do that in the right way and be open-minded, especially if you're doing it for the right reasons, you can recreate that team environment even today. I'm not buying into this idea that it can't happen. Baseball is not an individual sport.
Right.
It's a team sport. So on some level, all it's going to take is somebody to recognize that and to take it upon himself and to say, look, I want to win. I'm here. I want to win. Who's with me? Right? Not going to be easy, but let's work together, try to figure this out. And you guys did it organically. It just happened. And that is the benefit, I think, of schools like the Long Beaches and the Fullertons and some of these, what I would say, kind of smaller colleges.
Yeah.
It breeds this, we're the underdog. And I say that laughing because it's Long Beach has had, a ton of big leaguers. Fullerton has had a ton of big leaguers. You guys have won a World Series. But it is this thing where everybody, when they think about kind of greatness in baseball, you think of the LSUs, you think of Tennessee now, you think of Vanderbilt, you think of Miami, you think of Texas, you think of USC, even though it's been a while.
Right.
But sometimes the smaller programs, they have the luxury of being that underdog and having that monkey on their back. And if they can get it off and have that camaraderie, sky's the limit.
Right. And I think you said open-minded, right? That was one of the words you just said, open-minded. And that's something that I'm trying to instill now in my kids, where we're in the age, whether you like it or not, it's just old school and new school with analytics and old school mentality in the major leagues, right? It's the same thing I feel like in youth baseball is who can throw harder, who can hit the farthest, who can run the fastest, who can do all these physical tools, right? But I feel like a big thing that is missing is who's a winning player.
Mm-hmm.
You can, I don't know, say if you can recognize these kids if you haven't played baseball, but I feel like if you've played this game at a high enough level, you know what a winning player looks like, right? And I preach to my boys all the time. when you have an all-star team, when you have a good team, everybody's a shortstop, everybody hits third, and everybody's the best player on the team, right? Which is great to have. It's a good problem to have. But I tell these boys, it's like, when you get to the higher levels, everybody you play against is also going to be the superstar. Whether you're in high school now, whether you're in college, pro ball, everybody's a superstar, right? So what's going to separate you from these other kids, right? It's the mentality, one, but it's also being open-minded. If a coach comes up to you, whether you're in high school, whether you're in college, whatever, and goes, hey, can you play third base or can you play left field? You know, because he wants to fill that spot and he thinks you have potential. Like, as a player, are you going to say, oh, sorry, I'm a shortstop? Like, absolutely not. If Kai did that, I'd go crazy, because I'm like, buddy, you're going to do whatever you can to help the team win, because winning at the end of the day trumps going 4 for 4. If you lose and go 4 for 4, so what? Like, like, it doesn't matter. You lost. You didn't do what it takes to help the team win. Like, you lost. So, like, my message to these boys is, whether you're hitting 5th, whether you're hitting 9th, 10th, or leading off, you're important to the team, because you can bring something every single day to help the team win. And it might not be on offense. It might not even be on defense. It might be picking up your teammate in the dugout when they're down and then causing them to turn it around and get a couple hits to help the team win. But at the end of the day, you have to be open-minded in helping the team win. Like, you can't be stuck in this, oh, I hit third for my team and I play shortstop. I'm the best shortstop on my team. Like, I should be playing short. Yeah, but if it doesn't help the team win, because the guy at short that you're taking his position, he's not as good as you in center field, then it does no good because you're playing shortstop. If you're a better center fielder and he's a better shortstop, the team is better with that defensive alignment. And I think that's what is missing a lot is these kids nowadays is like, I'm the shortstop, I'm hit third, I do this, I hit homers. Like, I don't care. Can you put the ball in play with a runner in third, less than 2 outs? Can you get a guy over from second to third base with no outs to put him in scoring position? Like, that's the type of player that I look for. And I know that because in the big leagues, they do too. When I talk to Perry, when I'm working with Perry with the Angels, like, yeah, this kid is very talented, but is he a winning player? I don't know. Like, yeah, he can hit the ball 800 feet, but does he do what it takes to help the team win? And I think that's what's missing in these younger levels.
There's no question. And I reflect back on, so I did an interview with Austin Riley, and he brought up something that almost surprised me. I asked him a question specifically to kind of what you're talking about, which is like, let's just say that you had a conversation with the coach and you wanted to move off of this position, but your coach said, he needs you. I said, what are you doing? Who are you listening to? Are you doing what's best for you, or are you listening to the coach? And he actually said to me, I'm doing whatever the coach thinks. Now, here's what's interesting about that is I was surprised that he gave me that answer, not because I felt like it was wrong, but because I felt like so many of the kids today don't think that way at all. It's all about, well, look, I want to be the shortstop. I need to show people I can play short. And what I've realized too, and this is where like I'll challenge players and I will challenge coaches. And Zook, this is where I think you do a phenomenal job as a coach for your program. If I am a player and you're my coach, I've already had this working relationship with you. So if you're telling me, hey, Matt, I need you to move from shortstop to second base, and I need you to trust me, this is what's going to help our team win. And I know what you want, but you're still going to be able to accomplish all those things doing this. Are you willing to do it? I trust you that your read, like, you know what I want. And if you're asking me to do this, then it's what's best for us. I think what happens is you have sometimes, and maybe this is a byproduct of a player playing for a coach they've never played for. There's no relationship. They feel like it's only about winning baseball games at the expense of player development and all the things. There's this disconnect. And so the players look at the coach crooked, thinking like, well, yeah, you're just looking out for yourself. And so it immediately shuts it down. So what happens? The dad calls the coach. We're going to pull him off this team. We're going to send him somewhere else. And just think about it from a player's perspective. Like, is that really what you're trying to exude? Is that really who you are? Is that the message that you want to send? This whole thing, I think everybody, parents, players, everybody needs to realize this is a journey. It's a long journey. If you're 12, 13, 14 years old and you're a shortstop and you think that you've got the capability of being a big leaguer, it doesn't matter if you're playing left field. If you've got the capability of being a big league shortstop, guess what? People are going to realize it and they're going to eventually put you at short. No position you play at 12, 13, or 14 is going to unilaterally decide your future in this game at 22, 23 to 30. It's just not happening. And that's why I feel like people need to like let go of the steering wheel a little bit, let the process play itself out, and trust that if you're good enough and you're putting the work in, it's all going to work itself out. But trying to strangle these decisions with coaches sometimes, it's just too much. It's unnecessary. And there may be little one-off occurrences or things that happen that like, okay, maybe that was warranted. But the majority of the time, players and parents are completely overanalyzing things and to the detriment of their son.
Right. 100%. We can talk about all these kids, right? Like we can bring up a situation of a guy that you know really well, Josh Donaldson. And we all know what he has become, the type of player he is, MVP, All-Star, so whatever he was, right? But I played with JD when we were in the minor leagues together. And he was actually in the minor leagues. I was in the big leagues. He was a first-round pick out of Auburn. Got
as a catcher.
Got traded to the A's
from the
for
Cubs.
Rich Harden from the Cubs. And I can tell you right now how he became a third baseman. I don't think nobody knows it, but the guys that are around us, I might have shared this with you.
No. So tell us.
So we were at spring training doing bunt defense. First day of full squad workouts, spring training. I'm standing there with Mike Gallego. We're doing, and I'm rolling, feeding the balls, catching them, whatever. JD's behind me. First play, bunt defense. Okay, plays at one, regular. Boom, he gags, rolls it out. Scott Sizemore, who's the starting third baseman, runs in and collapsed. And I was like, oh my God, I just heard his knee pop. Like he's done. Tore his ACL. What happens? JD goes, hey, I can play third. I'll fill in. They're like, okay, go. Like play third. And this is a guy that was a catcher, first round pick, got traded for a high profile guy, is in AAA as a catcher. I can play third. They're like, go play third. Goes and plays third base. After that, he goes, hey guys, you know I played third base like in college a little bit. They're like, oh really? He goes, I want to try it. They're like, okay. Guy started the year in the big leagues with the team as a third baseman. Was probably rushed a little bit out of necessity. Didn't perform up to his ability. They sent him out to AAA. And I'm going to say this because of the player who he is now and like me and JD's relationship. He was probably the worst player in the big leagues. I'm not going to lie. The worst. They sent him to AAA. He goes, I'm going to work on it. I'll see you guys in a little bit. He goes down. All we hear is, dude, you see JD hit 2 homers last night? Bro, you see JD did this? He comes back. And dude, he is one of the best players I've ever seen play this game. And you saw his career, right? All-Star, MVP.
Yeah, fifth,
and he became this guy. But he started as a catcher, but he was open-minded to changing positions. And now he is what he is today because of that open-mindedness and just being that guy to do what it took to help the team win. And then it benefited himself. So like it all took care of itself. It wasn't him being selfish. It was like, I want to do this because we don't have anybody. I can do it. You know, maybe it helped me get to the big leagues, not as a catcher. And the guys became the best third baseman for a time in the big leagues.
Yeah. What's interesting is I feel like in everybody's career, everybody, doesn't matter who you are, there's like this inflection point, right? Where you experience a level of failure that maybe you were hoping you'd never have, didn't see coming. It hurts,
right.
It stings, and you have a decision to make, right? And in JD's case, he got ahead of it by saying, I can do that. Let me work on it. Like, I see this is my moment. Let me go grab my moment, right? I bring that up because so many players today, and this is where I want everybody to hear this, whether you're an amateur kid, travel ball kid, whether you're a minor leaguer or a big leaguer. The reality is that if you do not jump on that inflection point moment in time, it will pass you by. Yes. If JD doesn't call that out and instead sits back and says, I'm a catcher, man. I'm not putting myself out there and looking stupid. And he just waits for his opportunity as a catcher. Maybe it never comes.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't Maybe it doesn't click at the plate the way that it would have because he would have been so focused on his defense behind the plate.
Right. Yes.
Right. And this is one of those things. I have these conversations with players all the time where it's, when are you going to learn? Is it going to be when, hey man, you just hit rock bottom and guess what? Now you're 27, 28, 29. It's too late. I know that you've learned the lesson now. They've moved on.
Yes.
And now you want hey, I just need the opportunity. I just need the opportunity. And now the team's saying, we're giving the opportunity to the next 22, 23-year-old. Right? Go 100%. To independent ball if you want to. And so that's something that I think people need to hear. Like, and that's a great story, Zook. I'm glad you brought it up. But like, everybody will face this moment in time where it is an opportunity for you to jump on it. And if your ego is preventing you from being able to do it, how sad is that?
It's the ego, right? You said the right word, ego. In this game, to be as good as you can be, you need to put the ego in your back pocket. It's not about ego anymore. It's about, if you can think about the team first mentality. And I always said this, and I think I say it for a guy like Johnny Gomes, right? This guy had an amazing baseball career, right? World Series champion 2 times. Like, was never the Dustin Pedroias or the Juan Sotos or the guys like Mike Trout. He was never like that. But I'm telling you, I played with Johnny. This guy did whatever it took to win, and he did not care what his role was. He was always there. He was a gamer, and he was one of my favorite teammates I've ever played with, because I learned a lot from him in that regard. Is he shows up every day. He doesn't even care if he's in the lineup or not. He's ready to go. You say, Johnny, get your bat, get ready to go. He will go up there, and I'm telling you right now, he's going to give you the best at bat that he can give you. It's because he's always willing to help the team win. And by doing that, yeah, he might not make all the hundreds of it, but he's comfortable enough now that he carved out an amazing career, and he can say about himself that a lot of people can't. He's a world champion, and nobody can ever take that away. And he did everything to deserve that. Like, he deserved that 100%. If you played with Johnny Gomes, you would understand that what I'm saying is, this guy, like, winning his contracts or whatever, his career was a byproduct of the teams that he played on to win. And that just shows the type of player. You don't have to be the best player all the time to play, 13 years in the big leagues. You just need to be a winning player. And if you're a winning player, a team will find a spot for you to be a winning player. And he's, did a good thing, and now he's comfortable with his family. And that's kudos to him.
Yeah, I think and this thought just came to me as I hear you talking about Johnny. There's like 2 kinds of players, right? There's a player who waits for other people to tell him how good they are, and a player that wants to go out and like intentionally tell people and show people, more importantly, like, this is how good I am, right? Johnny was the guy where he didn't wait for people to tell him how good he was, probably because he'd be waiting forever. Even, when I had him on the podcast, like, we talked about his upbringing and the things that he had to overcome. Like, this is a guy who went to junior college and didn't have a ton of opportunity. So he was like, look, if I want to make this a career, I've got to like put myself out there and go do that. And so again, point being, for all the players and every parent listening, if you really want to make this your career, like, no one's going to do you any favors. No. You have to go take that opportunity. Yes. Right. And the more barriers you create with travel ball coaches, with scouts, with college coaches, with pro coaches or front office, the more barriers you create for yourself because you're difficult, you're not a team guy, you don't play the game the right way, you need to be coddled, you need to get your ass kissed all the time. Like, the more you create that reputation for yourself, people don't want to deal with it. They'll just move on.
Right.
Zook, I want to talk a little bit about, obviously, for those listening who don't know this, so you own and operate your own travel ball program.
Right.
Tell everybody what it's called.
Yeah, so it's called Pono. It's through the Kurt Suzuki Family Foundation, and we partner with the All Pono Foundation out in Maui with John and Miley Vela, who was our dear friends, family friends. Eli, Auntie Miley is actually Eli's godmother. So we're really close. But I started this I don't want to say because I knew what's out there, because I didn't know what's out there, but I knew what I wanted to teach and what I wanted to preach. And it's kind of everything that we just said. So I started this for my son, Eli, who's 8. And it's not because I'm pushing them to, they love it, but I want to do this so I can control the environment that they're in. And I'm not saying these other things are bad. I'm just saying with my career, with my experience, what I want to instill in my kids, I can control this. And now that Maddie has worked so hard to give me give me this life that I can retire at such a young age and coach my kids, that I can do this now, right? I want to be a part of my kids' lives. After playing 16 years in the big leagues, I was away for so long. Now I get to give back and be a part of my kids' lives, right? So I started this for that reason. And one of the things that I try to instill is they're so young that a lot of guys get caught up in, I want to go Team USA, scholarships. And I'm like, dude, you're 11 years old. Like, you're talking about college scholarships? Like you're crazy right now. And a lot of these coaches, they promise you the world, right? Oh, you play on my team. Like, I have this connection. I can do this. And I think I'm so lucky because I'm in a position where, like, dude, I don't need to be a car salesman and like promote what I can or can't do for you. Like, my resume speaks for itself. Like, you want connections, dude? I got all the connections you want.
Well, let me tell everybody right now, because we didn't go through your whole career, but I want people to understand. So obviously, won the College World Series, right? Yes. How many awards did you win in college?
I was the Johnny Bench Award,
right,
and for the catcher. National Catcher of the Year, and then the Brooks Wallace Award, who at the time was the National Player of the Year award. Right. All-American, yeah.
Then you were a second-round pick.
Yes.
Right? The first-round pick that year was also a catcher by the Oakland A's that you ended up essentially beating out and being the catcher for the A's in the big leagues. You spent 16 years in the big leagues. You were a big league all-star. You won a World Series title. You now work in the front office with the Angels, right? Yes, Am I missing anything?
No, that's.
I mean, so this is the guy who ultimately
Team USA. I was on Team USA,
Team
the
USA
Olympic qualifying team.
Yeah. But this is your resume, right? So when parents think about who do I want leading my son, I want people to hear this because that's important. You're not somebody who's like a failed minor league player. And by the way, if there's a coach out there who didn't make it to the big leagues and was a minor league player, they could be a phenomenal coach. I do not mean to take away from it. The point I'm making, though, is like, I think what you're giving people is a gift because you have this outlook. You're not doing it for the money. You don't need the money. You're doing it, as you said, to create an environment that you believe is going to ultimately not only help your son, but all of these other kids thrive at this level. And it's funny, Zook, we've talked about it. Like, that doesn't mean that you don't have experiences as a coach where you're like frustrated sometimes with players or families. Like, you've seen it now firsthand, kind of the difficulty of navigating this travel ball world, right?
100%. It's getting these parents, because a lot of times I came in late, right? You can say late when my kids are 10, like late to the travel ball scene. But these parents, there's a few of them I had to bring down to reality and kind of temper the expectations a little bit and kind of not mold them, but to change their mindset about the game of baseball. And like, I tell these parents too, it's like, yes, I played 16 years in the big leagues, but that didn't come with a lot of trials and tribulations. Like, I wasn't the Mike Trouts or the Juan Sotos of the world. Like, I wasn't just this freak athlete that was just amazing. I had to work and earn for everything I had. And even when I got to the big leagues, I felt like I had to prove every year that I was good enough to play in the big leagues to get a job. Like, it wasn't like, oh, he's had 10 years in the big leagues, he must be good. Like, no, I had to prove every year that I was good enough to play in this game. I wasn't given any opportunity. So my message to these parents is, I've been there when I've been a walk-on. I've been not recruited. I've been picked behind another catcher in professional baseball. I was not the best player. I was on 100 lost teams. Like, I experienced all of that. So that's why I feel like I can relate even to the major league level when I work with Perry and I work with the catchers and players. It's like, I can relate to these players because I was the person on a 100-loss team, but I also won the World Series. So I can relate with players on different levels that walk in through that door. I can relate to them. And that's what I'm trying to tell these parents is they're 11. Like right now, I'm trying to teach them life lessons along with baseball lessons because I'm telling you right now, I don't care how good you are. If you're a bad person and you don't understand the concept of what a team is, you're never going to make it because there's always going to be somebody as good as you or better that has the better values that they're going to pick over you. So like when a coach says, "Oh, you play on my team," for instance, I had to deal with this. You play on my team, you're going to get a scholarship because all my players get scholarships. I'm like, wait, you're 11 years old and they're scholarship for what? I was like, what are you talking about?
Are they trying to say like they'll pay for everything so that there's no cost incurred?
No, they're talking about college at 11 years old. He was like, you play on these national teams that are, yeah, they are good and they have great players, but my players get all college scholarships. So, he needs that exposure because I'm not flying to Florida or Atlanta all the time to play in these things. But that's not to say down the road it's not, because I just talked to Rick Eckstein, who's the head coach of the high school national team, and he just invited me out to Cary in the summer to work with him and his players. He has a bunch of players that he's coached and stuff, and he's like, you can help me pick my team. Like you can be there to
for the Team USA stuff?
Yeah, for the Team USA in Cary in July. He was like, why don't you come out, dude? I had Strauss out last time. He has all these ex-big leaguers that he's coached. But like I try to tell these parents, like, I don't have to tell you guys what I can give you. I have, and I'm not like bragging, but it's like I have more connections than any one of these travel ball coaches, whether you're talking about college, professional, major leagues, Team USA. Like I have all these connections too, but I'm not going to promise a kid something that I don't think they're ready at. Like,
right.
Because then my word becomes nothing. If the kid goes out, they're like, wait, this kid, he's not that good. Then my word becomes nothing. So I have to believe it and see it before I recommend it. Because if not, like all the work that I put in to establish myself as this person that people can trust becomes zero. And that's not who I am or what I preach.
So Zook, I mean, I have so many comments and questions, but I want you to think about this. What would you tell a parent? And I'm sure you've had these conversations, but what is the ideal parent? Like describe the characteristics of the ideal parent as it pertains to a player who's 11 or 12, whose kid has the ambition to be a major league player. Walk me through, like, who should that parent be for their son right now?
So I always say for parents is my biggest thing is for the parents to just be that parent, be that supporting figure to your kid and let me trust me enough that I'm teaching this kid everything he needs to get to where he wants to be. And I'm not going to, I never promise anything to these parents, right? I tell them like, hey, he has the potential if he keeps working hard, like the sky's the limit. Absolutely. But to promise something to a parent is irresponsible, in my opinion, right? I want parents to make sure the kid's respectful, to make sure the kid's on time, to make sure the kid is well fed, to make sure the kid understands how important school is or what. You be a parent and be that supportive figure in your kid's life. And you let me handle the baseball stuff because I get on them enough where if the parent jumps in also, then it becomes a double whammy and the kid just caves, right? He just caves in. So like these parents that want the best for their kids, I understand that I am a parent also, but I also understand how hard this game is. And I always tell parents, hey, you just do you, trust me. And I tell you this, like, because it happened is when I first got most of my parents, a lot of them weren't used to the way I coach or weren't used to what I'm preaching, right? They're like, oh, that's weird. Like, why isn't he doing this or this and this? But I tell you now, after a year and a half to 2 years, I got parents where I send out this form and I'm like, tell me what position your kid wants to play. And I'm not kidding you. Pretty much every parent but one or two maybe are like, coach, you play him wherever you think the team's going to need him.
Amazing.
And that's when I know I've got my message across to these parents are like, hey, you play him hey, he's going to play wherever you need him. Hey, he's ready for whenever you need him. Like, yeah, we trust you. Do what you got to do. And that's when I know I got the respect from the parents. And it's kind of like dealing with, I always say it because I can relate, dealing with a pitcher, right? If the pitcher doesn't trust you, you're never going to be on the same page and it's never going to work, right? How do you gain that trust from a pitcher? How do you gain that trust from a parent? You talk to them, you be truthful to them, and you let them know that you want the best for them. And when they believe that you want the best for them, you can tell them anything you want. You can tell them, get your head out of your blah, 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 get in the game, let's go lock it in. And instead of them getting mad at you, they're going to be like, oh crap, okay, I got it. Because he knows deep down that you want the best for him, you love him, you like care for him. But you can't do that until you get to that point. And I feel like it's with parents too. Like you can't just blah, blah, blah to these parents because then they're never going to believe you if you go right away. You have to, it's build up. You have to build this relationship. And that's what I'm trying to create in the environment that I want, because a lot of teams, I feel like, oh yeah, I have this kid from San Diego. I got this kid from Glendale. I got this kid from Arizona. And they all come in, but they're all all-star team, right? They're all good players and they win a lot of games because they're just talented. But what happens when you get to the higher levels and everybody's good? Does he know that he can't strike out in this situation? Does he know? And I'm not saying that they don't know and the coaches don't. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is I know what I'm preaching because I've been there. I've been in the situation. I've been at the highest level in that situation, failing, understanding how to play the game. And that's why I feel like I have so much to give back, is because I was never the superstar, or I was never the one that everybody talked about on MLB Network. You know, I was that supporting cast, but I played a long time in my career, and that's how I go about my business.
So Zook, do the same for me and tell me, what is the ideal characteristics of a player that you're coaching? I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about it, right? Somebody who's a team guy, someone who's willing to do whatever it takes to win. But are there any other characteristics that jump out that you kind of look for as you're trying to identify talent?
For me, the kid has to be open-minded in the way of making adjustments, right? You're never gonna, the moment, and I was told this at a young age when I got to Pro Bowl, is the moment you think you figured this game out, you'll get pushed back down to reality. The moment you figure that out, and you have to be willing to make adjustments, not necessarily on a daily basis, but pretty darn close to it. Because I tell you what, you're making adjustments, the pitcher's going to be making adjustments. Everybody is trying to get on that level where it's a game of cat and mouse, right? It's a game of chess. This guy's getting better. Well, you better get better. If you stay the same, the game's going to pass you by. So you always have to adapt. And I always look for kids that, if you tell a kid to do a headstand and hit, and that'll make you hit 300, if he's willing to do that, I'm going to the extreme. But if he's willing to do that, then you know this kid is willing to do whatever it takes to be the best player he can be. And he's willing to listen. Because at the end of the day, you don't want to coach a kid that thinks he knows more than you, because it's just never going to work. He might be a good kid, but it's just never going to work, because you're never going to be on the same page. And so like when I'm looking at a kid, whether it's for Perry, whether it's for my own kids, like coaching Little League, I want a kid that is going to be willing to make adjustments and not say, oh, my way is the best way.
Right.
Because once you think your way is the best way, you've lost. You're never going to be who you are. You have to be constantly adapting to this game, no matter what.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I have two more things that I kind of want to touch base with you on and help educate the people listening about. Both have to do with kind of the business of baseball. So one of the things I shared, which you've kind of mentioned, Perry, a couple of times, is since you've retired, you actually played for the Angels the last couple of years of your playing career. You've now been in the front office as an assistant to Perry, the general manager of the Angels. What's something that you've kind of realized that you wish you would have known as a player that maybe you didn't quite grasp. It was impossible to know. It was impossible to understand. But you feel like if you did know it, I don't know, maybe it would have enlightened you on stuff. Is there anything that kind of comes to mind?
Not necessarily. I think it's more of, like you said, the business side, right? Understanding. Like sometimes there's things as players you don't understand and you don't want to understand, right? Because you're in the trenches, you're in there. But I think understanding the whole option thing, right? For some players, because you're like, hey man, why did they send that kid out? Or why did they pick this kid over this kid?
Right, like analyzing what
right.
Right. Not necessarily the functionality of it, but like
right.
I just got optioned or that guy got optioned. Like, does that mean they don't like him?
Right. And I had no idea, right? But then it becomes a numbers game, unfortunately, at that point, and it becomes a business, and it becomes a controlling player, right? Controllable player. And that's what every team ultimately wants, is a player that they can, I don't want to say like shuttle, because that's disrespectful. Like I was in a player's shoes. Like you don't want to demean a player, right? It's like the nature of the business, right? The player is a good player, but unfortunately, the whole option, the whole numbers game, he gets put in a weird position for this year. And not to say next year is going to be the same. It could be different, but this year he has options. So a player that doesn't have options, he might not be as good as the player with options, but they're going to send the kid out with options because they want to keep both players.
Yeah. So to give everybody an example who's listening, who may be like, I don't know what they're talking about. This is super confusing. Let me just kind of like give you an example. So let's just say that a player is on the 40-man roster, right? There's two players. One's on the 40, or both are on the 40-man roster. One has options, one doesn't have options. These two players could go into spring training, and let's just say that the guy with options performs better than the player without options. At the end of spring training, the team likes both players. They can't option the guy who's without options. Otherwise, they have to designate him, right? Which is taking him off the roster, and then they could lose him. So what they do is they have to option the player with options, despite the fact that maybe that player performed better and could help that big league club maybe quicker than the guy that they ended up keeping. So that's the example that Kurt's using is, as a player, when that happens, it can be frustrating because you're reading into like, oh, what does this mean for me? Does this mean I didn't do what I should have? Why is this happening? I should have been the guy that made the team. And what Kurt's explaining is, look, at the end of the day, the team is doing this because the reality is the business allows them to. They like both guys. They don't want to lose one. And so they make a business decision. It does not mean that player who got optioned doesn't have a future with them. It does not mean that that team has moved on. It merely means that they're exercising the right that they have that was agreed to in the collective bargaining agreement.
Yes, 100%. And the thing that I can say now, that being with Perry for a number of years now, is this guy wants to win. Yeah. And I'm not saying that
I would attest to that.
But yeah, not blowing just because he's one of my close friends and, he's obviously, I work for him and stuff. It's the truth, where he's one of, I feel like, and I'm not speaking for everybody because I don't know the straight facts, but I feel like he might be one of the few front office general managers that think, I just want the best player. I don't care. I want the best player on my team, and I'm willing to let go of a player. I don't even care about options. I want the best player, and I have to do what I have to do to create the best team at this moment. And I'll worry about after. But he is like, I don't care if you're 18. I don't care if you're 20. I don't care about anything. If you're the best player that is going to give me the best chance to put a winning product on the field, I'm going to do that. And that's why I have so much respect for him. Is it doesn't come down to this. Yeah, maybe sometimes it does. I'm not saying, realistically, yeah, there are obviously business decisions that have to be made, but 99% of the time, he's going to put the best product he can on the field. And that's why I love working with him and I respect him so much.
Well, so I want to deliver a message to all the players and families who are listening to this, who are maybe assuming they're going to be faced with, have been faced with, or are in the process of being faced with this feeling that a player gets that like, my career is like slowly slipping out of my hands, right? The truth of the matter is that there are going to be many times throughout a player's career where you're going to feel like, is it too late, right? And then, like you even brought this up, Zook. Every single year you had to act like I got to win a job, right?
Right.
Liam Hendriks, a client of mine, every single year. This guy was the AL reliever of the year multiple years in a row. He truly believes he's the best. He does. But that didn't change his mentality. When he went to spring training, he literally said, I need to win this closer job. When we signed our 3-year, $54 million contract, where the White Sox signed him as the closer, he said to me, Matt, I'm going in to win a job. Nothing is going to be given to me. So it's that mentality that I feel like so many of these players need to just hold on to. If you get faced with this adversity, it does not mean, don't let the world tell you what your career is going to look like. You've got to be the one that takes the bulls by the horns and really, and I'm going to use the Ken Ravizza stuff, get the monkey off your back, man. If you're believing that what you're faced with is this huge monkey and you can't get it off your back and you have no control, it's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. Literally, you're going to have no control.
Right.
But how do you just be faced with this adversity and then recognize in the moment, wait a minute, I'm prepared for this. I have never been more prepared to have success at this game than I do right now.
Right. 100%. And to kind of piggyback on you about Liam is I faced Liam when he was in Toronto and he was in Minnesota as a starter, right? He was a starting pitcher at one point, right? For those teams. And he went to the minor leagues, here and there, but he had to work his way through adversity in the beginning stages of his career. So I think it also a testament to the type of person he is too, is because when he did become the AL close or reliever of the year or whatever, or just the major league reliever of the year, he remembers what he had to do to get to that point. So even if he signed that 3-year, $54 million contract to become the closer, he still had that mentality of, I had to earn everything I got. I'm not going to change now just because I got paid. And I think that's where you have to find a fine line of who to extend, who to give money to, because some guys you give money to and they'll just stop performing or stop working, right? You have to do your research on the type of person he is. And maybe, I'm just saying this as my opinion, maybe a kid that had to struggle early in his career, but figured it out at a year of 26 years old. Maybe that's the type of kid that you want because he went through the struggle instead of a kid that came up and was the star right away. You don't know if he's battle tested, I guess, for lack of better words. But in Liam's case, he had to earn and grind out through years, and he knew he had the potential, but his mentality, he was I can't lose my mentality, because I lose my mentality, I lose my skill, I lose my ability. And I think that's a testament to him also, because he never stopped working even after he got paid. He was I got to work harder than everybody else. I got to earn this. I got to do that. And that's why he's been so successful.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, it takes one phone call of probably 5 minutes talking to Liam that you immediately know why this guy is who he is.
Right.
So last question I have for you, buddy. So it's actually about kind of our relationship and really the agent. Well, what I'm getting at is the agent relationship, or more importantly, the decision of choosing an agent going into Pro Bowl. In your experience, Zook, talk to everybody about things that because you've obviously seen things from just our own personal perspective and our own relationship,
right,
but you've seen things in the clubhouse with other players. What are some things that players and families need to hear who are going through this decision for the first time that you think is important for them to kind of just be aware of and know?
Well, there's a few things, right? One, obviously, I was fortunate enough, we were together since day one, right? Whether it was when you were at Beverly Hills, and I always make this comment, I make fun of it, not to make fun of you, but it's dude, you used to order my gear, my equipment. Right. And now you're negotiating my $1 million contracts in the big leagues towards the end. But that's our relationship at the beginning. Anyway, what I was trying to get at is the one thing that I hear a lot is, and I see a lot of these agents, whatever, they're not realistic with their clients, right? A lot of stuff they feed their clients, I don't want to say BS, but it's not what's reality. And then it allows the players to think a different thinking of what or who they really are in the world of baseball. And then it gives them a false sense of security because he's just telling them what the player wants to hear so he doesn't get fired. Right.
So
and I think,
No, so what I was going to say is I've always said this, and I've said this on this podcast. For whatever reason, the traditional agent looks at this business like it's a sales business, and in reality, it's a service business. And the reason they look at it like a sales business is because that's exactly what they're doing. Their biggest fear is, I've represented this guy for X number of years. I haven't made any money or very little money off of him. He's about to be the superstar, and he fires me right before, and he goes signs with somebody else, and I don't make any money. So I need to keep him like feeling great about our relationship. What that tends to lead to is that agent who just tells them what they want to hear, as you just described.
Right. And I think that that's false, because then the player gets a false sense of security, and then the player despises the team. And then it just turns out to this bad, instead of just whether it helps your business or it doesn't, right? At the end of the day, in the moment, it might not be what the player wants to hear, and you might get fired. But at the end of the day, as the agent, you keep your reputation of telling the players the truth. And I feel like if it's like dealing with parents, right? You tell them the truth and you tell them reality. If they don't like it, you can tell them to leave. But if they like it and they build that trust, you could tell them, hey, this is just in the cards. This is what it is. You're not going to be offered a deal. It's going to have to be a minor league deal. But they'll accept it because you've already proven to them that you tell them the truth and what reality is. And they don't go on despising the team because of what the agent says. And I think that's the biggest thing for me now, being in the front office. And it wasn't just being in the front office. It was seeing it in the clubhouse. It's like players, you would hear players, disgruntled players all the time, because that's just the nature of the beast. But you would hear some of the stuff that they say and you're like, wait, that's not true. Like, why is the agent saying that? Or why is the agent telling them this? Because, it's just making them mad. And then it makes them become a bad teammate. And then at the end of the day, nobody wants to sign him because they're like, oh, this guy just causes trouble. He's a bad teammate. And then it's just a bad for the player, instead of the agent just telling him the truth. And the player either has to accept it and get better at it, or they're gone. It's just, it just blows my mind that it happens. And like I said, I was so fortunate enough to be with you my entire career. Is like 20 years in professional baseball. And then now where, we built that relationship where you're Kai, my son's godfather. Like, and for me growing up in Hawaii, everybody's such a family oriented. It's such family oriented that when I was looking for somebody, I needed somebody that I can trust, that I wanted to be like my family. If they were going to handle this important role of my career, of my life, I needed to have that trust where I believed and trusted everything they say. And that's why it worked. And that's why we're so close, is because I trust you and I trust everything you did. And you've never let me down. Yeah, you said some stuff to me that were hard for me to digest in the parts of reality, but that made me who I was, is because I was like, okay, like that's the truth. I need to work harder at it. I need to get better at it. And that's just the reality.
Well, and
it's no sugarcoating.
And so here's the thing too, that everybody needs to ultimately understand. Like, there's a way to deliver the message. And if the relationship is there, you have that foundation built where that my heart's in the right place. Like, if you're my client, I am committed to you being the best version of yourself, no matter what that means. So if I'm calling you on the phone and I'm saying, hey man, we need to have a conversation. I just heard this, or I just saw this, and like, this is not how this needs to be. We got to clean this up.
Right.
If I'm delivering that message to you in a constructive way, yeah, like there's a skill in doing it, but there's nothing wrong with that. I think where agents get in a bad spot is they don't have the foundation with the player.
Yes.
It's all surface level. They just kind of, handle certain things for them and check boxes. Hey, I ordered your equipment. Hey, I called the team on your behalf. And there's no relationship above and beyond any of that. And so that when I need to call you on the phone and I need to kind of be a little critical of your behavior, now the player's like, dude, I don't even know you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And now there's friction. And so that's something where I think people need to recognize that. Look, there's not one size fits all as far as agents go. Is a relationship important? Undoubtedly. Is experience important? Undoubtedly. Is the number of clients the agent represents important? Maybe it is to you, maybe it's not. To me, I believe it is. right?
Right.
There's so many things that all these families and players need to really understand and grasp. And unfortunately, what I think has kind of transpired and happened over the last couple of years, well, I guess it's been going on for a while, but it feels like it's heavier the last couple of years, is a lot of times players think about their agent from the standpoint of, if it's good enough for this guy, then it's good enough for me.
Right.
And
100%.
First and foremost, they don't even know why they're choosing an agent, right?
Right.
I mean, it happens all the time. And then you realize, oh, that player left that agent. Well, yeah, no surprise there. He didn't even know him.
Right.
Right. So look, I think as I reflect back on our career together, like I go back and I think about all of the big decisions that you had to make that required advice from me. There's plenty of opportunities. And again, you're in the front office now, so you may see this, where I call the team and I tell the team that maybe this is how you're looking at things, and it makes you look bad. And all of a sudden the team's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
The player thinks that, and then he sees him at the field and he goes, hey man, I talked to your agent. Your agent said like, you're feeling this way. And the player goes, what? No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Like those things happen. I hear from players all the time. Like those things happen.
All the time. Dude, it blows my mind. Like I heard it obviously more as a player because you play this game long enough, you're gonna run into some stuff that you're like, dude, that's the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Or you're like, why are you still with him? Like it just blows my mind. I
know. It's crazy. Yeah. But
it really is.
Look, buddy, I've been blessed to have you as a client, a brother, and a friend for as long as I have. I miss you guys. And I just can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast.
Dude, I could be on here forever, dude.
I know.
It was awesome. I appreciate you. You know how much our family loves you, Tara. And yeah, dude, we miss you. And hopefully we see you soon, buddy.
Yeah, we'll do this again.
Yes, I love it. Ball talk.
All right, Zook. Ball talk. Right, I love it. By the way, we're going to have Kai on here too. We're going to do Kids Corner, and I'm going to have Kai on.
You got it. You should hear him now. He's crazy.
All right, brother. Thanks for coming on.
All right. You got it.
See ya.